Hey, welcome to the question and answer series. This is the Only Japan Go channel. This show is live, and in this episode, I'm going to be answering your questions about visiting Japan. Every day, I get dozens of emails, lots of emails from people all over the world asking me where I would go, what I would do, etc., etc. And in this live stream, we're gonna answer all of you. And hopefully that this live stream, I'm going to turn it around, this live stream will become an asset for everybody who is thinking about coming to Japan. Hi, good morning everybody. It is, I don't know, 9:45 in the morning here. Greetings from Tokyo, Japan. So, let's start this thing. Before I start, I did get a lot of questions from other people, and you can also write in where you're watching from around the world. People are very interested to know about you, where you're watching. Some of the itineraries that people have asked me about, they'll ask me questions like, I'm coming to Japan for 10 days. I'm coming to Japan for 3 days. Should I come into Kansai? Should I come into Tokyo? Where should I stay? What should I do? Yeah, so, oh look, we're getting some questions already. So, Rodolfo Mendez writes in here, do you recommend going when the Olympics starts? I really don't know a lot about the Olympics. I know when the dates are going to start. I don't know what the city's going to look like 2 years from now. It's really hard to predict the services and how the city is going to... I've never been to the Olympics. So with that said, I'm not sure if it's good to come at the start of the Olympics. I can tell you one thing, it's going to be really crowded. If you look at the trend of tourists coming to Japan, it's just been skyrocketing. And I think it was about 5 years ago, they were struggling to get 10 million, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. Now they're getting close to 35 million tourists a year, and they're going to be at 40 million next year. So I'm gonna make a prediction. The Tokyo Olympics are gonna be crazy crowded. But should you come? Why not? I think the Olympics are, for me here in Japan, they're once in a lifetime kind of thing, once in a generation and a half. So the last Olympics was held in 1964. Should you come? Yeah, why not? That's gonna be my honest one. Can I meet you after 2022? Yamachung, I'm not going anywhere, but I'll still probably be here. You can, yeah, sure, we'll see what happens. I take it year by year. I might not be in Tokyo, who knows where I'll be. I love the city of Tokyo, but Japan's a pretty big place with lots of amazing cities. Okinawa, Nagano, Hokkaido, they call. Visiting Japan end of August to early September, should I be concerned about typhoons? Double T37, typhoons can occur anytime between May and October. So it's really hard to say, when is the best time to come. I recommend the best times are May and October. Those two periods of the year are the best times that I think that people should come to Japan. If you're coming in August, I don't think you should be concerned at all, because the thing is with the typhoons is people know in advance if they're coming. This is very different than an earthquake. Should you be concerned with earthquakes? Yeah, you probably should, and you should be concerned with typhoons, but typhoons gives you a heads up or a warning. You kind of know where they're going to land, and they last for about a day. It starts raining about, I don't know, like about 16 to 20 hours before it makes landfall, and then it makes landfall, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and it looks like this. You have blue skies. It looks really beautiful. So we had a typhoon the other day. Should you be concerned? And you know what? The day after the typhoon is usually the clearest days of the year, meaning you have beautiful views from observation decks like the Tokyo Skytree or Tokyo Tower, looking all the way out to Mount Fuji. Those are the best days to be at observation deck. So I don't think you should be too concerned, but if one does come while you're here, yeah, you know what? You can prepare accordingly because you get lots of time to prepare. Hotels are very strongly built. Nothing's gonna blow over like the Three Little Pigs, okay? All the hotels are made of brick. We got engaged on Mount Hay in Kyoto 2 years ago. Andrea, congratulations. Makes me really happy to hear that. We got people chiming in from all over the world, which is great. How about health insurance for the first-time visitor in Big House? I think it's very good. It's important to have health insurance, first of all, because costs whenever you visit a foreign country can be quite high. In Japan, medical costs are reasonable. So even if you don't have health insurance, it might even be cheaper than your deductible if you do have health insurance in the United States. So I don't know. It might be good to have travel insurance. My wife had travel insurance based on her credit card, American Express, I think. And then when she came to Bali, she ate something that gave her a stomach ache. And even though I was in the room and I was at the hotel, and it's very expensive to ask for a hotel doctor, she said the insurance would cover it. So I contacted the hotel doctor who came to the room and checked her out, gave her prescription medicines, and she was okay 12 hours later. So I'm going to say that, I think it's important to have not health insurance, but travel insurance. It just depends. If it gives you peace of mind and helps you to travel more confidently, yeah, why not? Same with getting the Japanese encephalitis shot. I made an episode about this. A lot of people have asked me about the Japanese encephalitis shot. Do you need it? I think that it's good to have. And if you ask me, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if you should get it, because if I tell you not to get it and you get it, that's my fault. So my best advice is Japanese encephalitis shots. Not everybody gets them. If you're going to just Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and you're doing like a 1 week trip, you don't need a Japanese encephalitis shot. Even if you're going out into the jungle, if you're going out into the woods. And mind you, if you climb Mount Fuji, there's no mosquitoes after, I think, 1,000 meters. So there's no mosquitoes up on Mount Fuji. The elevation is too high for them. I don't get bit that much, so it's hard for me to say. Should you get Japanese encephalitis? If you're staying here for more than a month, maybe you should consider it. But I only if you're coming in summer and you're going to forested areas would I recommend it. But that's up to you. I'm not going to say whether or not you should do it or not. Suica cards. Great question. Is it worth to buy a Suica upon arrival? I've got an Ikoka. You're going to get this when you're in Osaka. Ikoka. Hey, this is pretty cool. Is it? Oh, it's still flipped the wrong way. Yeah. Ikoka cards. This is, there's like 12 different IC cards in Japan. One of them is Kitaka, which is what you'd get in Sapporo. It has a flying squirrel on it, which is cool. Suica cards are what you get in Japan. You also have Pasmo, which is sold by Metro in Japan. They're the same thing. They're all in the same system. I highly recommend that you get a Suica card or a Nanoka or an Ikoka, because it makes your life a lot easier. When you get a ticket, let's say in Shinjuku, and you want to go to Yokohama, you gotta search how much it costs to buy the proper ticket. You just put 5,000 yen on a Suica card. A minimum, when you get these Suica cards, put a minimum of 5,000 yen. Put I'd say like 1,000 yen for every day you plan to stay here. So a minimum of 5,000 yen. And you can get that money back when you go to the airport, by the way. You just touch it to enter, and you touch it when you exit, and it's always the cheapest price. So it's 100% worth it to carry a Suica card. You can also put your name on the IC cards. Put your name on it if you can, because if you lose the card, the police can track the telephone number. You have to register your telephone number with your card. If they find it, somebody turns it in, they'll call the police. The police will call the phone number associated with the card, and you will get your card back. I've had my card, I've dropped my card twice, and I've got the card returned to me twice. So it pays to put your name on it. I had a card without my name on it. If you don't, it's like dropping cash. So yeah, Ronald has his name on his card. Rodrigo asked a good question. Is a JR Pass worth it? I'm making an Only in Japan episode on this. Our JR Pass is worth it. My answer is, if you plan to just stay in one area of Japan, it's not worth it. Because you're not going to ride the Shinkansen. You might ride, it would be cheaper just to buy the short Shinkansen ticket. I think a JR Pass is like $260 for 1 week of travel, or $400 for 2 weeks of travel. That's ridiculously cheap if you compare that with what we in Japan as residents have to pay. Basically, a 1 week all-you-can-travel JR Pass pays for itself after one trip from me from Tokyo to Osaka and back. In fact, it's cheaper than that. So, is it worth it? If you plan to do any traveling between Tokyo and Osaka, get it. It'll pay for itself. If you're planning on riding the Shinkansen, probably get it because it'll pay for itself. If you're planning on traveling around the country and going to spots like I'm in Tokyo and I want to go to Aomori for the Nebuta Festival and then I want to come back the next day, get it. That's the type of traveler that it's for. If you just want to come to Tokyo and you're going to be hanging around this area because you don't have a lot of time, don't get it. You can get a Suica pass. And by the way, there's passes in Tokyo that you can get on arrival. So if you're not sure if you're going to use it, I believe that you can still get the JR passes if you have a passport here in Tokyo. You might want to check the internet because the policies are always changing. But they were talking about this a couple of years ago. Since I can't get it, I'm not really sure. But you can get what's called the Tokyo Wide Pass. Tokyo Wide Pass. And I featured this in an episode on the Niigata, the sake vending machine episode, which was about two and a half years ago when I went to Yuzawa. I bought a Shinkansen pass, cost me less than $100. I think it was like $85. I could ride the Shinkansen for 3 days in this area of Tokyo. So that's also another option. Check JR for other JR passes as well. There's usually a local pass that's cheaper that will fit your needs. So that's worth it. And also it might be worth, if you have an international driver's license, just not riding the trains at all and just getting a rental car, because that could be cheaper if you have a family. Depending on how many people you are, getting a rental van can be a lot more fun, a lot easier for the family, and you see a lot more stuff. You have a better access to the countryside. Driving around Japan is really interesting. There's traffic issues at peak holiday periods, like Golden Week, which is the end of April to about May 5th. There's Obon, which is the New Year's holidays. Of course, you kind of avoid that. And then there's the Sean, thank you for the super chat. There's also the Obon holiday, which is just about right now, the second week of August. These are periods you might want to stay off of the highways, but in general, Tokyo has amazing highways. Excellent question. What kind of coffee you're drinking? I got this. The reason why this live stream started late is I got this. It's certified organic. I don't know. Like, there you go. I got this at Natural Lawson's, which is a convenience store. Lawson's is the third-ranked convenience store, and they're starting to fight back by having these places called Natural Lawson's, where they sell different kinds of food, which is healthier. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I do appreciate it. The questions are coming in fast. Any recommendation? This is for Verno, for a summer trip on Tokyo to avoid the summer heat. There's a lot of questions coming in. I highly recommend giving a super chat with your question, just because it helps the show, but I'll also see it easier. But I'll answer everybody's questions if I can. I'm writing Mario Karts. I haven't done that yet, but it looks like something I might want to do just once. Verno asks a good question. The summer heat, I made a couple of episodes about this, talking about how hot it is here in Tokyo. It is scalding in the summer. Now, there's days where it goes really high and it'll stay like this, and then the temperature will drop and it'll be like this for a couple of days, and then it'll go really high again. This is, I didn't answer the coffee question. This is very important that you realize how hot it is in Japan. It's not the heat, it's not the temperature, it's the humidity with the temperature. All right, a lot of people tell me, oh, look, my country. They don't say it in this accent. I'm just making it up. Oh, my country, we have 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Or I live in Arizona, it's 155 degrees today, which is like 58 degrees Celsius. And I'm like, look, that's a dry heat. I know it's hot, but here you go outside and your shirt, after 1 minute, you have a pattern on your shirt from sweat. You just can't stop sweating. It's just because of the humidity from the sea rising and just covering the city with this awful humidity that you've never felt before. It's like a convection oven. And then there's winds just swirling it around, and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And then in Tokyo, it's just filled with asphalt and brick and building materials, and it's just hot. It bakes. And between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. you might not want to go outside. That's why one of the reasons I'm doing this live stream at night, before 10 a.m. because it's a lot cooler. We have a little breeze going, so definitely make this. You have to consider this. The good thing with the summer though is that the days are longer. You can do more. Like if you take day trips, there's actually daytime when you get to 7 p.m. All right, the sun sets like around late 6 p.m., 7 p.m. because of Japan is a country where the sun comes up at 4:30 in the morning. All right, that's why they call it the land of the rising sun. There's no daylight savings time in Japan. No daylight savings time. This is good for people in the United States to realize. So when you come to Japan, prepare to wake up early, which is what you're going to do anyways because of jet lag, which is a good thing. And then you start your day early, and by 10 o'clock, you've seen just about everything you want, and then you can just kind of relax the rest of the day. I do recommend you just take it easy, go to the cafe, just surf the net between like 11 and 2 p.m. and then go back out when the temperature starts dropping a little bit. I like the space boat. There's some boats going by here, but if the space boat goes by, I'll stop the live stream for that. It's very important to catch the space boat. I really like the space boat. What can I say? Sean, I am from Ireland, and I'm 25 stone, which is heavy. I was wondering if it would be easy for me to get around to the temples. I would love to. I love your show and keep up your good work, Sean. I think it'd be fine. I don't. Japan is a place. The only thing you might want to consider, just keep it in your mind that the seats are a little bit narrower than in the West. This includes restrooms too. Like sometimes they're really boxed in there. I've been in hotels where the restroom and the toilet. This is why the budget hotels are really tough. The restrooms were really narrow even for me, and my wife fits in there pretty easy. But my dad is pretty tall. My dad's is about 190 centimeters tall, and he had some trouble with the showers. He had trouble with some of the hotel stuff because it's made for people that are a little bit. The newer hotels are more accommodating, but I don't think you're gonna have a lot of trouble. You're gonna have to walk around a lot, and with this heat, I bet you go down to like 22 stone and you just start sweating it out. I lose on average about 4 to 5 kilograms as well in the summer, just on the heat. So it's a really good question. I don't think there's anything that you really need to consider. You're gonna have to do some walking around, but other than that, everybody does that. That's okay. Blogger Coaster, anything interesting to see in Nagoya at nighttime? I'm glad you asked that. And Sean, I hope that answers your question. If not, leave a comment below. Blogger Coaster, anything interesting to see in Nagoya? I lived in Nagoya for about 4 or 5 years of my time here in Japan, believe it or not. I lived in Okazaki, Toyohashi, which are suburbs of Nagoya. I lived in Fujigaoka for a year, which is in the center of Nagoya. And the weekends we'd go out to a place called Sakae, Sakae. Now it's always changing, and I haven't lived there for a long time, so I'm not sure what the vibe is like now. But Nagoya has, just like every other major city in Japan, a pretty vibrant foreign community. Now this area of Nagoya is made up of a lot of people from Brazil, and the Brazilians, especially in Toyohashi City, because they back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of people from Brazil came to Japan to work in the factories, and there's this sort of partnership with Brazil and Japan. There's a really big connection. If you go to Brazil, a lot of people escaped World War II by going to Brazil, and so there's a vibrant Japanese population in Brazil. I think it's one of the places with the highest Japanese population outside of Japan. So with that said, Nagoya is highly influenced by people from Brazil, and there's lots of clubs and bars that are pretty vibrant and pretty fun. And when I was there, the foreign community was a lot closer than they were in Tokyo. So I think it's really easy to make friends in Nagoya. I thought it's a small city where people see each other quite often, and the nightlife is basically based off of that. There's nothing like you would get in Tokyo, like a lot of tourist attractions, because they know that the foreign tourists don't really spend too much time in Nagoya. It's mostly local, so it's set up for that, which is not a bad thing. That just means that you have a more authentic night experience. I lost my counterweight to my drone. It's the heat starting to come back up. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I'm coming in these, and I'm gonna answer these questions first. So I hope that answers your question. Once again, if you want to follow this up, leave a comment before. Andrea on. Can a couple from Canada move to and live in Japan? We love the country so much and want to move there. Any suggestions? I'm gonna say yes. A couple. So Andrea, I'm gonna answer this question, then get to Matt and Sean's question as well. Sean, thank you very much. You're very welcome, Sean. So Andrea, I had a friend named Leslie who lived in Iwaki City in Fukushima. She was the teacher before me, and when I came there to take over for her, this was 20 years ago. She was from Canada, and her husband were both teaching at English schools. Her husband taught at the adult school of the chain, and she taught at the children's school, and both of them had visas sponsored by the same company. Now, the English schools here are becoming very competitive to get jobs, and one of the ways to ensure that you have a job is to say that if we are together, we're going to stay longer. Is to say that you might make a commitment over 1 year, which means that it keeps their company's costs down and increases your chance of getting a job as a couple. If you don't have any Japanese skills, then you're pretty much limited to either something that a company in Canada would give you or English teaching. And if you get into English teaching, the Canadian couple that I met that was here together, they came in through Aeon, Aeon, which is not the shopping mall chain, but the English school. The English school chain for Aeon. I worked at a company called, the subdivision of Aeon called Amity, and I taught kids for the first 7 years, and it was really fun, and that's why I'm still somewhat immature as a result of it, which is okay. Kind of bring, kids keep you real. They know how to keep it real. They're not fake. Kids are who they are, and I kind of learned from them. So that's the only way. But if you are married, I would look into that route. That might be your best route. So I hope that answers your question. Again, leave a comment in YouTube on the bottom there, and I'll try to get back and answer it. And other people might help you, Andrea, who have done that. So I would love to see you guys come here from Canada and have some fun here. Matt's question. Hi, John. I leave for Japan tomorrow. Oh, you're going to be here tomorrow. Any tips for fireworks? We want to see the Edogawa fireworks on August 4th. I went to the Edogawa fireworks every year for 11 years. It is the best fireworks in Tokyo, and I'm really excited for you for coming. For some reason, it never rains. For the 11 years that I was here, it never rained from 2005 to 2016. Every year, it was completely sunny. So I think you're going to have a really good event. It might rain a little bit, but when the event starts, it is just really nice. And you can sit on the grass there. My advice to you, Matt, I'm so glad I got this question. Go there early. I'm talking if you want to sit in the front, go there the 6. So the police kind of don't allow people to set up like 2 or 3 days in advance, but you can set up 6 p.m., 5 to 6 p.m. the day before the fireworks event. So that means you can go there, you can hammer down a blue sheet, get some long nails, hammer down a blue sheet, and write your name on the top of the blue sheet, and then you can go back to the hotel. The next day before the event, you might want to come about 4 or 5 hours before, kind of take in the vibe, and then the fireworks started, I believe it was like 7:15. And then you'll have the best seat in the house. If you do go early, okay? Go early and just bring food, bring a cooler. It gets pretty crowded to go to the stores. Bring food, bring a cooler, and just relax and watch the show. And then after the fireworks, stick around for about an hour. And then the train station, Shinozaki Station, where I used to live, will be completely, not empty, but it will be a lot better. But the fireworks, the Edogawa fireworks is one of the best ones because you can sit on the grass and everybody has a place to watch it. Unlike the ones in the center of the city, it's really hard to watch. If you want to get a yukata, you can get them at Uniqlo for like 5,000 yen, which is like $45 to $50. You can get used yukata for about the same price. There's some places in Harajuku, some used clothing stores. Highly recommend if you want to feel the Japanese energy of the summer festival that you wear yukata as well. And Japanese people will come and talk to you more, and they'll be taking your pictures. You'll be like minor celebrities. But it's kind of interesting that way. I like to wear yukata. It is hotter. I mean, I always wear tank top now, but when I wear the yukata, it is hotter. Sometimes I would put it on right before the fireworks event starts. Great question. I hope you have a lot of time. Send me photos on Facebook if you have some great photos or experience. I love to hear people's stories about coming to Japan. All right, Sean said answer the question. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Sal, my husband and I are going to Japan during Golden Week next year. Okay. Unfortunately, I heard best to avoid for international visitors. Let me read the rest of your question. What can I expect, or any suggestions or tips on what to do or avoid? Golden Week, Sal, it's a holiday where Japanese are out and about. The offices are closed for the most part, and people are on the road, and that means hotel prices are higher. If this is the only time that you can come. But because the prices of the hotels are higher, because things are a little bit more crowded, it's not as enjoyable, meaning you should get an early start on the day. If you do come, expect to pay about 20% more for things like accommodation, and expect that restaurants to be really booked. Like reserve as far in advance as you can if it falls in Golden Week. And I think that the best thing that you can do is be prepared for that and know that that's going to happen. The weather is absolutely beautiful at this time of the year, so I can't say that, if you're doing natural stuff, you're going to be fine. But if you're in the city of Tokyo, you're doing stuff that requires lining up, avoid Tokyo Disneyland, for example. Don't go during peak Japanese holidays because it's even more crowded. I went when during the summer last year when students were off from school, and there was a wait time of 4 hours for the Journey to the Center of the World, the volcano in the middle of Tokyo Disney Sea. 4 hours. The fast pass for this ride was sold out, I think, by lunchtime. So I can't recommend Tokyo Disneyland during peak busy seasons, but natural stuff like going out to the countryside, you might be fine. The Shinkansen tickets, you want to get a reservation, or else you might end up standing. If you have a JR pass, that you're limited to just the Hikari, which is not all the Shinkansen. So if you're taking a non-reserved ticket on a peak season, there's a chance you might not sit down unless you have a seat reservation. And the best thing to do would to get that upon arrival for a couple of days in advance, and if you can, even further in advance. And you might have to leave it at hours that you don't want to leave. So just keep that in mind. It's a good question to ask. But you should come at that time. If that's the only time you can come. There's still cherry blossoms, by the way, up in Tohoku, and there's still cherry blossoms up in Hokkaido, in Hakodate. It starts at this time, so you can still catch that. Amrisi, I'm going to Tokyo in 3 days. Are there any Obon festivals happening or unique gifts like knives or local sake in certain areas? I always recommend my friend's site called tokyocheapo.com and Japan Cheapo. It's a strange name. Tokyo, CHEAPO, like cheap, like no money, cheapo, with an O at the end.com. They have an events listing, which is pretty spot on. They update this a lot. Obon festivals are happening in different neighborhoods throughout the entire summer. Once August starts, there's an event going on somewhere in someone's neighborhood, usually on the weekends, sometimes on the weekdays. So I think you're gonna have to check the listings. There's just too much for me to check. I could check right now. I got another smartphone. I dropped the smartphone, so there's cracks all over it. I don't know. Other than that, knife festivals, the knife festival that I know in Seki City is in October. So that's not possible right now. There are knife shops in the city of Tokyo. There's one in Nihonbashi, there's one in Tsukiji, There's one usually in the center of the city, and you can get pretty good deals. But I think I can't find any listings. I think you get what you pay for when it comes to knives in Japan. Um, you'll find some good ones. James Thompson. So 3 days. So you're coming in 3 days. I'm interested to know how long you're staying. If you're staying past August 10th, a lot of festivals start picking up after August 10th to August 17th. It's a lot of festivals in between, but it's also the holiday season. But you can find festivals for sure. Upon arrival, just go to the information desk, and they're going to tell you like a million festivals that you can go to. There's just too many happening in the summertime. James, thanks for everything, John. I'll watch every episode. I watch every episode. Thank you. I'll be in Japan for the 4th time in November. November's a pretty good time. This is also a busy time because the leaves have changed in a lot of places, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I had problems booking a hotel in Nagoya. Sorry. I had problems booking a hotel in Kyoto and Osaka back in November. I think I'd gone in the middle of November. You have to book the hotels in November in advance as well, especially in places like Nagoya. Why do I got Nagoya on the mind? Places like Kyoto and Osaka and Kansai region, because this is when the leaves are changing. If you're going up to Tohoku, if you're going to an onsen, highly recommend that you book in advance as well, because the autumn season, people have been dying in the summer and they're so excited to travel in the autumn and to soak in onsen, to go to ryokan, traditional Japanese inns. You want to book at least 2 months in advance for November because of the leaves changing. But you should be okay. It's not as bad as summer though. Yeah. Before time, man. James, that's great. I think for people who come back more than once, they start to explore more. This is why Japan is starting to experience a lot of repeaters. This is what they call them in the tourist industry. And repeaters are really valuable to Japan because they don't just stay in the tourist areas. The second time you come, those are people who will go to Tohoku. Those are people that are going to go to Shikoku and Kyushu and the Tottori and the Sea of Japan side, and they start to see other attractions because they're more interested in different kinds of things. And the 4th time, man, I'm interested to hear like some of the places that you're interested in going. If you're going to stay in Tokyo or go outside of it. Anthony Trumbo, nice to see you again, Anthony. Have you been to the Fukuro Festival in Ikebukuro? Hold on a second, I'll get to that. This is the space boat. This is the boat associated with the space boat. So there's tourists on that boat. I've ridden that boat as well. It's pretty cool. Hey, everybody. You can't see them waving. Now we got a couple of waves in the back there. The one lady was waving. That's always cool. I haven't been to the Fukuro Festival. We are in Tokyo September 23rd to 27th, and that is going on during the day. I think it's a really highly specialized festival and might be really cool to go to, because the great thing with the festivals or these conventions, and there's always a convention going on at places like Big Sight. Big Sight's in Odaiba. Every weekend there's a massive convention, like the toy convention brings, like every single toy maker is in one spot. And if you're interested in Japanese toys, that's the place to be. It's like paradise, seriously. So if you're interested in the Fukuro, to go to a festival like this, it's really great because it brings a lot of the makers together, and you can see so many things in one spot. I highly recommend that I haven't been to it yet because there's a festival for everything. But I think if you're interested in this, definitely go. Whoa, check this out. There's like some sort of crab on the ground. You see that? It's not moved. There's a crab. I thought it was a big spider. It's not. No, it's frozen. I never seen that before. I thought it was in the city, not the beach. It's a river crab. So thank you, Anthony, for that question. I appreciate it. Good morning. It's 6:30 a.m. in India. Awesome. Can I visit Japan with $1,000? The bearded one. Yes. You can visit Japan on any budget. The great thing about Japan is that, there's no real, when people ask me how much do you spend per day, There's no real answer to that because you can camp. I hitchhiked on a bare bones budget. Um, I spent $150 for 1 month traveling in Japan in 2003, and inflation is such a way that it hasn't really changed the prices since 20 years ago. You can find a hotel for as cheap as $20 or less on the internet, or guest houses or Airbnb or youth hostels or just hostels without youths. I don't know. There's all sorts of options. If you have a tent in the summer, you can camp for free in a lot of places. Sometimes there's a small charge of 500 yen. Aogashima, where I went, I camped for a couple of nights. That was pretty neat. So, you can eat ramen or 100 yen onigiri. You can survive on a really bare bones budget. Or if you need to just conserve money, you can spend a couple of days where you're just eating like rice balls and staying in cheap hotels. Then you can splurge at the end of your trip. I know people who've done that too. So there's no real way to say how much it costs. On average, though, I think it's going to be $100 a day for most people because the hotel, if you want to get a hotel, they start basically at around $55 for a business hotel, which is a bare bones hotel in Tokyo. But it depends on you, where you're going to be, how you're going to get, how you want to travel. Some people like to save their money and travel more lavishly, and people want to see more things, and they can like couch surf, for example. So the average is about 100 US. Yeah, for normal people, the average is about $100 a day. But for people who can conserve, you can really knock that down. But it does, I believe, impact the quality of your trip. And if you spent $1,000 to fly here, you want to spend more than that to be comfortable here, I think. You want to eat some good sushi, do things that you can't do back home, and to do that, I think you have to spend some money on any trip. Japan is a place where there's so many options. This is not like going to I want to say a country, but then I would say that country has less than Japan, and that's not really true either. Japan's got just too many things, too many options. When you look around, there's not something you want to kind of buy everything. You want to kind of take part in everything, and it costs a little bit of money. So it kind of adds up real fast. Parks equals mosquitoes. Yeah, Warren, I'm getting bit a little bit. It's all right. Is Japan accessible for those of us in motorized wheelchairs? Hillary Wilson. Japan is a country, I would say Tokyo is pretty accessible these days. If you asked me this 20 years ago, I would say no. If you ask me this today, I'd say yes. Tokyo is a lot more accessible than it was. Basically, if you leave the cities, Hillary, I'm gonna say it's a lot more difficult because usually people who have motorized wheelchairs, and they're everywhere. Do not underestimate the population of people with motorized wheelchairs. They're everywhere, but they also have family members and who help them get around, and that's a big part of their mobility. But here in Tokyo, I think if you have somebody with you, you can get around pretty good. When you travel on the subway, you have to call in advance. I'm gonna say you're gonna have to leave well in advance of the time that you want to leave. But the staff, and I was thinking of making an episode on this. The staff, when somebody who has a wheelchair makes their way to the station, if you call ahead, the staff stops what they're doing. They will literally part the crowds for you. You become a subway celebrity. All right, if you are in a wheelchair, you're a subway celebrity because they will part the crowds for you. They make your travel as easy as possible because it makes everybody's travel as easy as possible. If someone in a wheelchair can get from A to B fast, it means that everybody can get from A to B faster. And that's sort of really a kind of way of thinking I like. And I think that if you have it and a motorized wheelchair, you'll be just fine if you call in advance. The hotels will often help you out a little bit more. Try not to do too much stuff. You might be limited in what you can do per day because you might need a specialized car to get around, but you can also use, believe it or not, the subways. just make sure you have a really long lasting battery on it because or a place you could charge in or something because you'll be scooting around a lot. Thanks for asking that question. Um, I've been pointing out places where there's accessibility, like elevators and ramps, just so people who are with disabilities can see what it looks like in Tokyo for them. So thanks for that question. Texting abroad. Okay, we got here one from Zehan. Me and my sister planning on going. She had heart surgeries, 4 to be exact. Wow. And she'll need meds, blood tests every week. Any advice? Zehan, I have to tell you something. She's really brave for making the trip, and I think that happy after surgeries like that, being happy mentally is really important. I think you're going to want to take it slower, first of all. Try not to do everything that you want to do, maybe just do a couple of things per day. Of course, take it slower. But my advice would be, my mom had a stroke about 6 months before she came to the wedding in April. And she had mobility problems and she had to get in wheelchairs sometimes to get around. Just take it really slow and let people know that you have to take it slow as well. Let people know if you need to be in a wheelchair, it's okay. Often a lot of attractions like Tokyo Disneyland had wheelchairs for my mom. And if you had a wheelchair, I found out that you have priority to a lot of rides. So wheeling around mom became a lot more valuable at Tokyo Disneyland. I want to answer your question specifically. To be honest with you, I can't really say for sure. I don't know anyone, I haven't traveled with anybody who had heart surgeries. But I think if you have a lot of medicines, have a doctor's note with you. Just writing down what the medicines are. I don't think you're gonna have any problems at customs. But to be safe, just ask the doctor. Get the doctor's business card, just in case there's a problem. You can give customs and say, "Look, we got all these medications. If you want to confirm this, here's the doctor's business card in the United States. Go ahead and call him." And it looks good for you to have the doctor's business card. Also, you can have a doctor's note on it with his stamp on it if you can. Anything with a stamp on it looks good in Asia. Have them sign it and just say that you had a surgery, because it's like a third person who's reputable. The doctor on letterhead says that you had just had heart surgery and you need all of these medications and list the medications. That's also like a get out of jail free card, just in case some of the medications might be. I don't even know the list of illegal medicines that are legal in America that aren't here or in other countries. So for me, if you bring a lot of medicines when you travel, I always say bring a doctor's note and a letter from the doctor. It takes them like a couple of minutes to write, and it gives you peace of mind as well. And make sure that you know that there's no daylight savings times, and if you have to take medicines at certain times, that the jet lag might be pretty bad if you're coming from the United States or from other places. Yeah, you can get the blood test as well here in the hospitals. Just make appointments in advance. Great question. These are things I never really thought about. Texan abroad, what activities, museums, and restaurants are around Yokota Air Base? Is it a good idea for day trips, and do you recommend? All right, hold that question, because we have a space boat sighting. I literally have to stop. Boat. It's one of the coolest experiences from Asakusa to Odaiba, and the morning boat is pretty empty. In a couple of minutes, people are going to be able to go outside onto the top of the boat. I love me some space boat. For those of you that want to ride third class, there is a tugboat that you can jump onto from a bridge. They don't sell tickets, I don't think. I always wanted to try that. That's the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible jump onto a boat act, maybe with Peter. I think he's the one who would want to hold the camera. No, he would go like this. Let's jump on 3, 2, 1, and he would watch and I would jump. That's probably what would happen. All right, back to the questions. Texan abroad. I don't know that much about Yokota Air Base, but if anybody does, please chime in. If anyone is serving here in Japan, I know that there are activities out there For those of you who are wondering where it is exactly, there is a base here that's been here for a long time. I've been invited to go there a couple of times. Yeah, Yokota Air Base is in Fusa. I just want to remember the town. So if you look at, let me get this down here. So if you look at oh, I gotta get the. If you look at the map, you could see me on the blue spot. I'm not that far away. If you compare from like being in another country. But yeah, you know what? I'm looking at the Google map, and that's what I would have to do to find out. I really don't know. I know on base has a lot of stuff. It's like going back to the United States for me, because the military bases have supermarkets with stuff I cannot get here. I love it. So yeah, you know what? Invite me to the air base if you're staying there long term, because I totally would want to come to visit. Area for good day trips. In this area, Chichibu might be a good day trip, especially in the spring. It's a place with lots of flowers. There's lots of mountains in Tokyo, amazing hiking, a lot of nature events. It's also a great place to have a car. If you drive around or rent a car, you can really see a lot of stuff, because the trains out there, the train times aren't as often as they are in the center of the city, and having a car gives you a lot more flexibility. And I gotta be honest with you, some of the like roadhouses and culture on the highway are pretty darn cool outside of Tokyo. Japan is a car culture. They make a lot of the world's cars: Nissan, Toyota, Honda. Yeah, rent a car out there. I don't know anything about the museums though, but I'm sure that there are. Ren 3. Last year I paid $1,200 for 6 weeks of JR Pass and traveled 5,000 plus worth of travel. Yeah, you know what? The JR Pass is pay for itself. Would love to share my experiences for your JR Pass video. 8月は東京に戻ります。5分でも会える? Yeah, you know what? Ren, send me a message or leave a comment. Or you know what? If you're on YouTube, make sure that your channel allows for messages. Then I will send you an email message, because it'd be great to hear your experience. A lot of YouTubers don't add in experience from other travelers that could help information-wise to other people. I've been here for 20 years, so I kind of know a little bit more than just based on brute time. I would say brute force. A lot of other YouTubers have been here for like 5 years or 10 years, and that's actually a lot of time. But after 5 years, I wouldn't be able to give much travel advice outside of the city that I was living in. But nowadays, I feel pretty comfortable doing that, because I've lived in 16 different cities. Definitely, let's get in touch. I would love to hear some of your adventures. I'm not going to be here for a lot of August, though. But hopefully we can find a way just for 5 minutes, because I'd love to get you actually on camera to talk about your experience on why the JR Rail Pass is a bargain. I think the JR Rail Pass works for some people, and I think the JR Rail Pass doesn't work for some people. If you're coming with a family, train travel is good because it means that you don't have to you don't have to drive, and you can drink alcohol if you want to. You don't have to drive, and it takes a little bit of stress out of it. But some people like to drive. Some people like the flexibility of having a car as well. Japan has some pretty funky drive-through restaurants. You know, you're not getting burgers, you're getting like ramen and sushi instead out there. So yeah, I think that if you do travel for 6 weeks and you literally want to go someplace every day, a JR Rail Pass it pays for itself. But then again, you spent $5,000. But then again, you spent $1,600 or $1,200. So if you just wanted to spend 3 weeks in one city and get to know the locals, then you probably wouldn't spend much money at all. So it just depends on how you want to travel. But once again, like if you're here in Japan for 3 weeks and you want to spend 1 week of just like every day doing day trips, and with the JR Rail Pass and a Shinkansen, you can do a day trip from Tokyo to freaking Osaka You can do a day trip to Aomori. It's crazy because it takes you 2-3 hours to get out there, but you can come on the last train back. And to me, that's mind-boggling because here, living in Japan, we would never take a day trip unless it was business for using the Shinkansen. We'd want to stay overnight. It's a little bit of noise. We have another boat going by. This seems to be a city boat that's cleaning up. It says they're clean up boat. Oh, and in the back, I think they put garbage. It's a city boat. You see this logo right in the center? That's one of the city of Tokyo's symbols. Toei. So it's a city boat. All right, great. I'm gonna do this live stream for a little bit longer, guys. I appreciate these questions. They're really good. Roberto, sorry for the noise. I think the boat will be gone in a second. Roberto, it gives me time to read your question, man. Hi, John. Are there any Japanese restaurants that would prefer not serving gaijin customers? Wow, interesting question. If so, what signs to look for to avoid them? Roberto, that's really hard to say. I think a lot of these places. How do I answer this? A restaurant is a public place that is pretty much obligated to serve anybody. And if you see a sign that says no foreigners, I've only seen that sign maybe once or twice, and they were in restaurants I wouldn't want to go to anyways. There's places called snack bar or snack club. They're not actually places to get snacks, all right? If the place does not have a lot of windows, maybe you don't want to go and eat in there. All right, windows is also, security too. I would say, like, if you can see inside, then you feel comfortable going in there. If you're uncomfortable with, I want you to eat as much Japanese food. Avoid going to McDonald's as much as possible. I got friends that are coming today from the United States. The last time they were here, they ate Domino's Pizza and McDonald's way too much, and I'm not, I'm not proud of the fact that they did that too, because I should have forced them into eating more Japanese food. But a lot of people don't. Some people don't come here for just the food. Some signs would be if there aren't windows, or if it's hard for you, if they don't have an English menu, or if it's hard for you to, if it just, you can kind of tell. If you have spider senses that say no, then don't go there. And I have that as well. I got these spider senses that tell me not to do something. There's a space boat. This is the time to get up and stretch. Hey, space boat! I'm waving at you guys, space boat! No? Tourists aren't saying hi. It's pretty cool to see this thing moving through the city. From where I am right now, it's a really nice view of the Tokyo sky tree as well. Alright, I'll take a few more questions. These are really good questions. We've gone from people with disabilities and motorized wheelchairs to people who are on limited budgets. There's no end to the questions. Roberto, I hope that answers your questions. It's really hard for me to say because I don't know if I should avoid this place. He's got a leaf blower and he's getting closer. Do I move or do I? What do I do? All right, you know what? I'm gonna just fight it out. Roberto, I don't know how to. I hope I answered as best that I can. I don't know. I don't see a lot of those restaurants very often. As a customer, you might want to kind of know what you want to order before you get in there. Don't try to. Don't try to give a lot of special orders. One of the complaints with foreign tourists is that they specialize orders too much. Like, could I get ramen without the noodles? It's like, it doesn't make any sense to Japanese people. Like, I can understand, like, can you take the pork out of the pork broth? And no, you can't do a lot of these things like this. And of course that the chef's gonna get a little bit upset. But in general, like if you know what you want before you go in there, then you could probably, and maybe you want to search it. Roberto, the best thing the best thing would be to go onto TripAdvisor, or the internet, or Google reviews and check out the restaurant. That also helps. Or if it's a chain restaurant like Fujisoba or, gosh, there's so many of it. Just Gyudon restaurant, then you're gonna have a pretty good experience. But if you want to go into a specialized restaurant, you're not sure, just check Google Maps and you can see the reviews on it. I hope that helps. It's a good question. All right. Japanese McDonald's any good? This is from Cote. You know what? It's not bad. I'd rather eat at the. I'm gonna move. It's not bad. I can do this on the run. I'm mobile. He's like right behind me. I can do this on the run. So, Japanese McDonald's, I think, is better than McDonald's USA because they're very. Japanese consumers, I think, are pickier than American consumers, in the sense that if there's one little problem, like it becomes a massive problem, and the quality of the food in Japan is top notch. So that means McDonald's has to be top notch. The price is a little bit more expensive, and I think the portion sizes are smaller. But hey, you know what? That's not a bad thing. Eat less, eat more often. Just eat less. That might be something that is very useful for people like me. I'm on a diet because I ate too much when I was in Bali. What about APS that can help in reading and writing? I'm not sure what that means. Looks like a beautiful day. It is, LJ. It's pretty nice. By the way, thanks everybody. Some people are answering the questions of other viewers, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to get to as many questions as I can. Oh, here's one. Hi, John. How necessary is it, this comes from Ichiban, to make hotel reservations in advance? You know what? It depends on peak times. I'm the kind of traveler that I would like to make. I would never make reservations. I was a backpacker, so I would literally arrive at the airport without a reservation, and then I would find a hotel. And usually it works out better because last minute reservations sometimes can be last minute check-ins can be a little bit cheaper sometimes. But I was in countries where there were guest houses, and that there was always an availability. If you're coming at a peak period, then you're going to want to make a reservation in advance. Because Japan, over the last 5 years, has become such a popular destination, you're going to want to make hotel reservations in advance. If you're coming with a family, you're going to want to make hotel reservations in advance because it's hard to accommodate more than one person, more than two people in a room, for example, or you have to find a bigger room. Japan's rooms are typically made for two people or smaller, so you're going to want to make a reservation. How far in advance? I would say if you're going to go on peak seasons, if you want to go to a Japanese ryokan, a popular one, you're going to want to make a reservation 3 months in advance if you can, because that makes sure that you're going to get a really good room. If you make a last minute reservation, it's hard. People are always canceling too, by the way. This is kind of neat. We're under the bridge here. You can see the Tokyo Sky Tree. So I would say at least a month in advance, and if you're going to popular places, as far as 3 months if you can. And if you can't, then that's okay. You take what's available, and the hotel is just a place to crash. Usually when I travel, I don't want to spend as much. I want to spend as little time in the hotel as possible. Yeah, it's a pretty neat view. Cool. Any more questions? I'm gonna set the camera down. So our moderator, Nasha Broad, was stalking me yesterday. He's here in Japan, and he was at this point yesterday. So I'm going to go there for about 5 minutes and answer a couple more questions. And then we're going to end this live stream. I wanted to do this for an hour. And the reason why I might do this more often, these question and answers, because I think a lot of people email me all these questions and I really don't know the answer. If I go to Hokkaido, and this is one from NZ17, and maybe I can answer this. If I go to Hokkaido for a week, where should I go? Or to Sapporo. I really, it's hard for me to say because I don't live in Sapporo. So I'm going to give you all the stuff that TripAdvisor says. Because but from personal experience, like you might want to go to a brewery, to Sapporo Brewery. You might want to visit some cheese shops or snack shops. You might want to eat some ramen at Sapporo Ramen Alley. You know, stuff that I made on the show. I'm not the best person to ask I'm one person to ask for advice, but there's people who have traveled a lot more than me in certain areas of Japan that probably know more than me. The thing is, everybody has different things that they want to see and do, and this is why giving advice is really hard. Like, I don't read a lot of manga and watch a lot of anime, so if you're into anime and manga, it's really hard for me to give you advice on where to go for that. I know some places, but I'm not a master of the anime manga genre. All right, I can put the camera here. When is the least popular time? Now we're getting creative questions here. Now the questions are getting kind of creative here. When is the least? Oh, what is it? It's easier to read this per chat just because Jed's writing. Stop asking questions. When is the least popular time to go to Japan? Winter. It depends, because a lot of people who come for skiing will come to Japan in the winter. But if you're coming in February, you'll find that people are waiting to come for the cherry blossoms, and February seems to be a time that's like in between stuff that people want to see. So February, I would say, is the least popular. January and February. I don't see that many tourists, which is a good thing, but it's also cold. Is it hard to get a tour of the Shonen Jump building? It's impossible. You can see on the first floor of the Shonen Jump building, there's a gallery that anybody can go into. And it's very limited, but usually they have some special things on the first floor. But in order to get in, you need a pass. And yeah, I got that pass from a friend of mine who is in the PR department, because I used to work at Shueisha, which is the parent company of Shonen Jump. So I got access to that. I worked for them like 10 years ago. It's been a while. I got a good view of the fireworks there. Yeah, from here, Nosh. This is a pretty neat view. I wish I'd stayed here, to be honest with you. I was at Mr. Seiichi's hospital room, and he had a nice view, but there weren't as many doctors on, because it was delayed one day. There weren't as many doctors on available, so we had to watch it inside, and I couldn't live stream inside because it's a hospital, so that's too bad. Asian movie enthusiast. I'm a food guy, so I splurge on teppanyaki and kaiseki dinners. Yes, which you should when in Japan. Do you have any other high-end dinner recommendations? A lot of people ask me about high-end sushi, and I'm not really a big fan of high-end sushi because I think mid-range sushi is more than enough for me. When I get into high-end sushi, that's something like you eat once in a lifetime, and then you're done. Places like, I won't go to Jiro's because it's been on the movie and it's a touristy thing to do, and it's just filled with people who know nothing about sushi. If you want to go to sushi, go to a chef that's hasn't been featured in a movie that's not $300 for 20 minutes, okay? And you don't have to pay a lot of money to have really good sushi. Sushi Zanmai is one of my favorite sushi places. It's a chain, and I go to the top shop, the first shop, and the quality of the sushi right next to Tsukiji Market is outstanding. Other high-end stuff. High-end yakiniku restaurants are incredible. If you can get A5 Wagyu for yakiniku, it is like a life-changing experience to have that kind of meat. It's not the kind of stuff that you get in the United States or in a lot of countries. Argentina might be the only country that can compete with Japan in terms of like delicious beef. In Argentina, it was good. Australia has some really good grass-fed beef. I don't know if they export it though. But yeah, yeah, beef steak places, teppanyaki, which is what you're talking about, yakiniku. Um, there's a place that has a $100 bowl of ramen, which I've been dying to try. And they also had a $100 bowl of curry rice. These are like soul foods of Japan that are supposed to be cheap, but they found a way to make it expensive. And I'm more curious about that than I am um, like wanting to eat it as just a meal. I'm kind of just curious about it. But I think that the $100 ramen is made with a lobster soup, like a lobster bisque broth base. So that would be pretty amazing, right? $100. There's a $1,000 beef bowl in China. You can find stuff like that, but I think there's a point where the price is the story and the quality of what you get for that money is not. And here in Japan, usually you get what you pay for. There's a $1,500 bento box out of Nikko that I was like, should I buy that? Nah, you know what? These special matsutake mushrooms are not that great. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for them. So I think you get what you pay for in Japan, but it's not always the case either. And you just have to be careful and ask a lot of questions, and don't. If it looks like a ripoff, it probably is. I mean, not everything. And this is the thing, right? In Japan, Japanese are very honest people, but not everybody is honest. All right, this is something else. I think, like when it comes down to business, there's just also like downright dishonesty going on in the business world here in Japan, because business is war. Have you ever heard that expression? So business is war, so you're not always going to get the best deals. You do have to check around, and competition is the best thing here in Japan. I don't think that like theft happens in Japan. Like bad stuff will happen in Japan, so definitely take precautions. But more often than not, if you forget something, it will be returned to you, and that's sort of pretty cool. I think that's important also to point out. Mario Kart is annoying for locals. Don't do it. See, Irving, you know what? I think don't do things to please the locals sometimes too. I can't say that Mario Karts is the thing with the Mario Karts is that everyone's doing it. And I've seen actually, because people don't like it and they see it all the time, they have Japanese people will have a day off and they end up doing the Mario Karts too. So I'm saying that like I've been really low on the Mario Kart thing, because for me, going around and seeing these people disrupt everyday life, I'm like, I don't like these people. But that's what like old grumpy people would say. And I don't want to be one of those people, so I'm not going to dismiss the Mario Karts, but I'm going to say like, yeah, they're kind of annoying, but I can't say not to do them. I can't say not to do them. I want to do Mario Karts, but I'm probably going to be the only one in my group who will want to do it. I think, you know what, if you want to do it, then do it. I think for a day, it's less than $100, and you're getting like 4 to 6 hours of a tour around the city. I think it's pretty darn good. It's inexpensive. The thing is, if you do it and you're a responsible driver, that's one thing. If you're doing it and you're acting like an idiot and going all over the roads, that's just plain dangerous, because you're literally riding the roads of Tokyo, okay? And for a driver, that's scary enough, all right? Imagine going through New York City on Mario Karts, tourists going through Mario Karts in the middle of Manhattan. Like, no way. We get people like road rage. Would people get killed not because they were driving bad, but because other drivers just run them over. But yeah, Tokyo, it's kind of annoying, but it's also it's a neat little attraction. I think that you're not going to see much longer. So do it if you can, I guess. Japan is the safest place in the world. Only thing I wouldn't recommend is visiting clubs of ill-reputed late night. Yeah, you know what? I stopped going to clubs when I hit 40, pretty much, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you do go to clubs, if you check online, there's like 5 or 6 of them that are quite popular. Just go to the popular ones. Don't try to be a hero and go to like clubs that like I want to get a real authentic gangster experience. It's not going to end good for you. The police have been cracking down on a lot of the gangsters who will lure tourists in. And this is mostly in like 2 or 3 areas of Tokyo. And don't even get me started on Osaka. Osaka is, yeah, it's more freewheeling than Tokyo, which is why we love it. But Yeah, if you're going to Kabukicho at night and you want to have the lost in translation experience, it's not going to happen for you. If you're getting shot, then the police are, you know, just be careful. Don't go into places that look suspicious, or don't get lured into places. Go to places, go to clubs that are reputable. Ageha is a famous one, and then there's like Yellow and Air. A lot of these places might be out of business. There's a couple of places in Roppongi. Daikayama was a very stylish place to go for clubbing. Shibuya has some clubs, but they're usually filled with tourists or really young Japanese. For me, I like to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. I like to have like one drink and I'm done. Like I'm turning into an old guy. But I'm not gonna. But I'm always gonna go out every now and then too. I might go clubbing like once or twice a year. Um, if you guys want to support the show, the super chats have really done that. I want to thank everybody who's been giving the super chats to help support the bandwidth and the channel. I also have a postcard club. These are some sample postcards that I sell on Patreon. This one was from King Kakuji, an episode that's coming up this week. This is the one from the Capsule Hotel. And I write a message on the back. I'll write your address, and I put a Japanese stamp on it. They're usually pretty cool. This is an onigiri stamp, which I thought was pretty cool. Sometimes the stamp's more impressive than the actual card, which is kind of sad. But these are, I try to find the most outrageous Japanese stamps now, and I'm putting these on. This is one that has kabuki theater actors on it, which is pretty cool. So if you want to support, the best way you can do it is to do it on Patreon, is to do it through super chats, and on Patreon by joining the postcard club. I really appreciate that. We have 150 postcard club members, and we have about 20 daimyo, who are people who I send packages to. So I send like a specialty package or some kind of food that isn't so processed that you can get here in Japan, usually from a specialty maker, to people all over the world. And this is what helps finance this channel, the super chats and this. So I want to thank everybody for that. I do appreciate it. And it also gives me the flexibility to answer your questions for 72 minutes. Yay! Is Kabuki worth the experience? AJ writes in, yes. I think it's worth one afternoon. Just give it a couple of hours. Why not? If you're in Japan, it's a traditional cultural thing that you can do. I think when you go back home, it's one of the things that you're going to remember the most. Now, granted, walking around the streets and seeing how crazy Tokyo is something that you're going to remember, but Kabuki, doing something cultural like Kabuki, I think is highly recommended. John, drive around Tokyo. I'm doing that. I'm actually going to be doing that this week. John just did a video on the dangerousness of Roppongi. Brooke, yeah, I did. I think there's some things that the United States Embassy has like a security warning for Roppongi. I thought that was pretty interesting. It's not as bad as that, but I think that if you go to Roppongi at night, you should be aware, because people's image of Japan is that it's super safe and nothing bad happens here. That's wrong. Bad stuff happens here. Most of it's done through deception, all right? I remember my friend Tom came here like 10 years ago, and he got lured in from a lady to get a massage, but he was drunk. And he called me. I go and find my friend Tom. He went to the bathroom and never came back. I couldn't find my friend Tom, and I gave him a second cell phone, and I got a phone message from him. He goes, "John, help. I'm in this massage parlor and I can't get out." And he told me where he was, and I went in there, and I had to pay the Chinese lady. I had to pay her off to get him out of there. It was pretty funny. It was one of these memories that you're never gonna forget. Sorry, Tom, if you're watching this, I'm gonna completely grill you. Not grill you, I'm gonna completely roast you on this until the end of time. But it was pretty funny to get my friend Tom out of a massage parlor in Roppongi. But Roppongi had a reputation where people would pull weak people in Japan. They have a hard time saying no because they want to be polite, and saying no is not a polite thing. So they'll be hesitant, and when they're hesitant, that means no, but they don't say no. And people, I don't want to say from Africa, but it mostly is people from Africa. A lot of them are very nice, but there's a few of those people who would pull people into bars, and so it became a reputation that stay away from the touts on the streets. People will whisper like marijuana. Don't do drugs in Japan. I mean, that's like a no-brainer, right? Some people would say hashish, hashish. Like what is this? You know, like this is stuff that I heard when I was in Morocco and places where it's like really illegal out there too, by the way, which why would they be selling that here? But don't do drugs in Japan either. All right, I'm just gonna say that. I know that a lot of the viewers here are not the kind of people who do that, but don't do drugs, don't do anything stupid. The Japanese police are the most competent in the world. If you're gonna get caught doing something, it's gonna be in Japan, okay? I'm just saying, Japan is an instant ban from the country. Don't do it. Yes, do not do drugs. I have never done drugs except for in Amsterdam when my friend deceived me with a brownie, and we had gotten drunk at the Heineken brewery, and I was out of my mind, drunk, and I just wanted to go to bed, and he gave me a brownie, and I was really hungry, and I ate it, and it tripped me out for 12 hours, and I got really sick for 2 days. And I will never do anything like that ever again. I don't smoke cigarettes either, so don't do it. If you smoke cigarettes, Japan might be a paradise for you, though. on the flip side, we still got vending machines for tobacco, and there's lots of places where you can still smoke. There's specialty smoking areas as well. But the one good thing about this, and this is something that people might want to hear about, Tokyo is becoming smoke-free. The mayor of Tokyo, Koike-san, is very smoke-free person. So a lot of the restaurants now are getting ahead of the law that's supposed to be coming up in, I guess this was before the Olympics. They're becoming smoke-free ahead of the law being passed. And people are actually quite happy about that, except for the smokers. So there's a lot of smoke corners that are opening up around the tourist areas where you can smoke with all the other smokers. And the bad thing is that these places, the smoke is pretty smoky around there. But the good thing is that if you're a smoker, it's like a community of smokers. And I think, you know, if you ever wanted to be a smoker, you would do it because you want to get into the community. Because you can't be a non-smoker and you can't hang around people smoking as a non-smoker. One, because it makes you cough, but two, because non-smokers are distrustful of non-smokers who want to hang out with other smokers. So that's why people in Japan still smoke. Because if you're a salaryman, you can get opportunities being in these smoking rooms with your boss. If you're smoking too, then you have extra conversation. Something that you know, cultural stuff you might want to make sense. What's the least known prefecture that is really not that famous? Wow. Wow. Oh, we got. What is the least famous? Tottori was one of the prefectures that was least famous for a long time, but it got famous for being the least famous. Is it possible? Tottori Prefecture won the Wagyu Olympics, so now they have the best beef, arguably the best beef in Japan. It was pretty good. Some other prefectures that are under the radar, Akita and Tohoku is sort of under the radar. Shikoku's prefectures are under the radar. Kochiken, Ehime is probably the most popular one, but Tokushima is under the radar. I think more people should go to Tokushima, especially now, because they have the best summer festivals are in Tokushima. The Awa Odori Festival, the dance festival, and the Awa Odori in Tokushima is highly recommended. Wow, Kagawa-ken is not very visited. Takashima is the sorry, what's the name of the city there? Takamatsu is a city that doesn't have a lot of tourists, but it's a beautiful city. Wow, Niigata could use more tourists, I think. When I go there, there's usually not enough of them. So there's a lot of places. I've been traveling all over the country for the last 20 years. I've seen so many amazing stuff. Saitama is a great place to live. It's the suburbs, and a lot of fun stuff happens in Saitama. What happens in Saitama tends to stay in Saitama as well. So it's like Vegas in that way. Kagawa is famous for udon. That's absolutely right. All right, last question. Unless a super chat pops up. Last question. Are all prefectures foreigner friendly? I'd say yes. I don't know why they wouldn't be. I haven't been in a prefecture that said, like, it's like saying, is there a state in the United States? If you're talking about like the South, then I don't really think that there's any like more racist places in Japan. I think if there are, it would be in Tokyo because there's just more people from everywhere here. But I've never really had places where like we don't want any foreigners here. Maybe they're usually crazy people. In Japan, look, I want to be honest with you. There's a percentage of, like a very small percentage of the people, like in every country, that are far right or far left, and these people are anti everything, and they're just everywhere, and you can't avoid it. Japan is no exception to that. How do you avoid it? You know, you just know that it exists and you don't let it get to you. But if you're not welcome, don't go there. I have never been to a place, and I've been to all 47 prefectures more than once. I've never been to a place where that was completely foreign, not foreign friendly. You'll find places that are awesome and places that suck. I smoke while walking on the road. Not such a good idea, but you know, who am I to judge? If I was behind you, I might, you know, say something. Hey, you. You know, I don't know. And then if you were bigger than me, I might run away. Has there been any news about the Yeah, you know what? They were executed, I think, 2 days ago. I don't like we in Japan don't like to talk about the executions that much, but it's been on the news a lot. These are the people who planned the gas attack on the Hibiya line in 1995, I believe it was. They were executed. The leader was executed about 3 weeks ago by hanging, and the news report showed how it was done. And Japanese media does not, the country of Japan does not does not publicize executions, meaning that you don't know that an execution will happen until after it happened. After somebody's executed in Japan, then it hits the news, not before. So there's no debates. They'd been on death row for like a long, long time, and it was no surprise, but it just happened and now it hits the news. So that's the way Japan rolls. And hanging is the method that they use here. Let's drive Mario Karts. Nosh. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm getting closer and closer to doing it though, Nosh. I'm getting closer and closer. Any places you'd advise my friends of color not to go to? BB. I consider myself, especially in the summer, someone of color because I'm colored in a little bit. I'm brownish. I've been discriminated a little bit based on my color, but it's mostly because of the entertainment industry, and they were looking for certain people of certain colors, and there's some jobs where they want colored people. I can't believe we're talking about this. So I don't think that's these days. I don't think that there's a place where they don't want. Where 20 years ago, I think there was a problem with this, but these days I think there's an understanding that everybody is different, and it's not your color that decides how you act. All right. Some of the people who speak the best Japanese are black. You know, some of the people they speak better. So color really doesn't have any role anymore in Japan, and I think this all really came about from things like the Miss Universe contestant from Japan being half, and people re-examining what it means to be different in Japan, and it's evolving still, and it's still an interesting time to be in Japan, but you'll never have people in your face telling you anything racist. That just doesn't happen in Japan. People are polite. They might think it. I'm going to tell you a story. They moved, but my neighbor in Shinozaki was a racist. All right? He was a racist. He hated people from Korea, and he hated people from China with a passion. And his children were the ones who told me about it. Sorry if I'm getting the Ultraman hair from this side. So his parents were the ones who told me about his racism. And I remember talking to the kids downstairs, and they told me that I was different. And I said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm different because I'm a foreigner." And they said, "No, my father says that foreigners are bad." And I said, "How could I be bad? We're always laughing because I always tell them funny jokes or do something like make a silly face." They go, "Yeah, you're different. That's why I said that." And I go, "Well, who's really bad?" And he goes, "The Koreans and the Chinese." This is awful. And I said, "Why?" And not many Japanese are like this, but the father was so polite to me in the elevator, but maybe he didn't feel that way. So I think, and he was around 40 years old. But I'll tell you something. you don't know what some other person is thinking, okay? AJ's got it right there. Racism is everywhere. You don't know what the other person is thinking. The best thing is that, you know, if people might be racists and don't act on it, then it's not really a problem to anybody. But when they teach their kids the racist stuff, I thought that was pretty bad. I had to tell the kids that their father was wrong. And of course, he's not going to try to argue with me. I was a little bit bigger than him, but he's not going to argue with me. But, you know, racism is everywhere, and it's here in Japan. I have it happen to me, but it rolls off me. Life is too short to get worked up over this, and people's thinking on racism in Japan is evolving. So you can be an activist and you can get angry at it. And folks, wherever you are in your country, you're gonna have your own approach. I'm not telling you what to do, but my approach is this in Japan. Whenever you get angry, and even if you are right, this is something, if you're coming to Japan, I really want to stress this. Never get angry in Japan. Anger is an emotion that you have to seriously control it. If you get angry and you lose your control, it's over. You are wrong. Even if you're right, you are wrong. Anger has no place here. And when racist stuff happened to me, I felt angry. But I also swallowed it, and the best thing I can do to convince them was not to be the person that they thought I was. Does that make any sense? To not be the person that they thought I would be, an angry foreigner, by being racist. And this is what people do. They get angry and show this emotion. So instead, I just smile and I just go, okay, and I walk away. And life is too short to dwell on like stupid people. And the thing is with Japan, every generation or every couple of years, just the opinions change. And it's something that evolves just like around the world. My generation is a lot more accepting of diversity than the generation before it, and so on, right? And it's just the way it is. I'm extremely accepting because I've traveled so much, and me being someone between white and black, it's like, the Indian people, we are very, and by the way, India is one of the most diverse countries in the world because we have within India so many different kinds of religions and different kinds of people. It's a very diverse and tolerant country, and it's also people that are intolerant too, and you'll see racism going on everywhere. But, you know, it rolls off me. And I think in Japan, if you get angry like you would in the United States because someone was racist and get in their face, nobody does that here in Japan. You automatically become wrong. Instantly, the moment you become aggressive, you're wrong. You lose. That's it in Japan. It might be different in the US. If you get in a fight, you're going to jail. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Even if it's self-defense, fighting is like jail time here. All right? Just avoid any aggression, and if something bad happens to you, just walk away. Be the adult, and those people will respect you more for it. Don't say anything. All right? Just let it go. And 9 times out of 10, if it's in a group, someone in Japan stick up for you. And whenever you have a third party do it, it makes you look like the winner. I've always had people stick up for me. If somebody said that, like, I did something wrong, and somebody said, gaijin baka or something like this, another Japanese person will stand up for me and say that, look, he's actually here, he's actually eating the food, he's actually making an effort. Come on, that's when the community and people that are highly educated come around, and that's what's going to make a bigger impact than you getting upset. Sorry, I don't want to continue on this topic too much, but it's kind of important for a lot of people to understand it, because if you do experience something bad that happens, or if a restaurant owner tells you to leave or something like this, just get up and leave. Why do you want to be there anyway? They don't want you here. Just leave. But don't get upset about stuff. Japan, no one's gonna physically harm you. Just get up and go to someplace else, and don't let it roll off you, and enjoy the next moment. And with that, I think that's a good place to end. I want to thank everybody for these questions. Wow. Thank you. I'll do more of these question and answers if this is something that's interesting to you. I think it's important to. I can't respond to everybody by email. All right. if you're sending me emails, I really apologize. I had one woman, I checked it, I had responded to her in 2 months, and she was so upset. And to this woman, I want to say I'm sorry. I literally don't check Facebook messages because it's mostly spam. And if I do respond to you, it's hard to have a conversation. So that's why I'm doing shows like this. It's so I can include everybody in there. And I don't like to disappoint anybody, but at the same time, by trying to make everybody happy, sometimes I disappoint people because I can't do the other things like make videos, which is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the day. All right, beautiful view of Tokyo today. Thanks for joining me on this live stream. I hope that this was informative. I hope that I can answer some of your questions either directly or indirectly. And if not, I couldn't answer your questions. I hope that other people who have been to Japan multiple times can answer your questions. I'll do more of these if you guys like it. Leave. By the way, before you leave, push very gently the like button if you do like this kind of content, and I'll do more of these. If we can get 500 likes on this, then I will do another one. I basically, on all the content that I make, if people don't watch it or like it, I won't do the same thing. Like the Fukushima spy adventure, for example, it still hasn't broken 100,000 views, so I probably won't do another one of those. But if people like it and they hit the like button and they leave lots of comments, and I see that it made a positive impression on you, then I will do more of this. And that's, I think, when we improve the channel through your feedback and do what, yeah, we just broke 300, thank you. I think we're just gonna break 400. And that's when the value of doing this kind of programming, everybody wins, I think. And yeah, if you're coming to Tokyo, by the way, for the 600 people watching, I'm gonna do a meetup tomorrow night in Asakusa. Check Facebook in about 30 minutes. We're gonna do an event page. But if you're interested in meeting up, I'll be doing a meetup because people have been asking me like crazy to do it. I just don't have the schedule this summer, but I will do one tomorrow. And Nosh, I already told you about this yesterday, man, because I did this on a Patreon live stream. But yeah, and if you wanna ask questions in a more intimate forum, go to Patreon because I do 2 live streams like this per month. Tomorrow in Asakusa, tomorrow night, I will be doing a meetup. Boom. So there you go. So I hope to see you guys there. It looks like it is actually kind of raining. So I'm going inside. Thank you so much. 90 minutes is more talking than I've done in a long time. I'm starting to lose my voice. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to get to work. I'm working on a new video for Kyoto's temples. And I hope that you have a really good trip to Japan, and I hope this has been useful. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. For me, I'm going back to work. I might do another midnight snack. Today, actually, some big YouTubers from the US are coming to cut open a watermelon, so I'm going to see them this afternoon. Bye, everybody.